how can you allow people to live their lives to their own choice of religious doctrines and accept that those are parts of society that must be there. They are pillars that people are allowed to cling their souls to, and yet then create a framework that all of a sudden does not accept their rights to then protest their beliefs if they feel that their beliefs are being twisted on their own children and their own lives. So therefore, I feel that we've sort of created this sort of I believe everyone should have a right to protest for a start anyway, if they believe something is wrong. Like you say, so you can have people then protesting like from the right wing, saying that they protest against ethnic minorities coming into their society. So, okay, certain things are obviously, not just, but whilst we're still building a world, we have to have the openness of contrary thought, and if we don't have it, we are going down a dangerous road. We keep saying it's a dangerous road, and obviously if it all ends in nice fluffy rainbows and everyone is having fun, obviously it's not that dangerous, but possibly we might be people enjoying those fluffy rainbows at the end of it, and we're not actually very strong humans because of it. We just happen to have found a decent way of living. Do you get what I mean? I'd rather have a real robust soul at the end of it that is decent rather than just something that happens to be in a good place. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I hear what you're saying. Kind of. You lost me slightly with the rainbows. But I get what you're saying.
No. I should have said that because of the LGBT. I didn't mean rainbows. I just meant because I've got young daughters and I'm painting a bedroom. The unicorns and rainbows are all over. They're going to be all over it. So
don't worry. I understand. Look, the thing is, Ryan, that these are things that we have, though, for against, right? I mean, oppression and discrimination of the LGBT community is something that we have for, and we have collectively as a society rejected, haven't we? And so,
yes.
and is there a question here, Ryan? Do we have to pick a side? Do we have to decide whether or not we care more about protecting the right of the LGBT community to exist and the right for schools to educate about LGBT inclusive education, or do we fight harder to protect the freedom to protest? Do we have to make a choice here?
Well, I mean, can you answer this question? Sorry, because I do know, I am familiar with the story because it was months ago. Are they religious-based protesters, or is this like a collection? We've got a few Muslims there, we have a few Christians there, we have a few everyone.
No, they believe that it is. It has to be said that predominantly they do believe that their children should not be taught LGBT inclusive education because that is, in their mind and in the context of their religion, not acceptable.
Well, I mean, surely it's if they break laws that we have and they want to take their children out and they don't want to enter them into the system, then it's surely really the only way to carry on is just to let them carry on protesting and to let things and to let the world carry on in the direction we're going in. Because, like I said, we know we are going in the right direction. Can I just enter something into it? I do believe that this has all gone a bit, because I've asked I've got I've got a gay friend. No, but I was having a discussion with a gay person that I know well enough to ask certain questions, and I said, "Do you think that there's a lot more, adverse thought towards the LGBT community, or it seems like there is anyway, because of the sudden sort of, well, not sudden, but the gradual thing about the trans thing that's gone with it? Because I feel there's a lot of people that are slightly uneasy about trans, but then they were quite happy to have, lesbian and gay people in their lives because they got that. And now they're like really confused. And I think that's pushed a lot of feeling to the right because a lot of people can't comprehend something like that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's about being able to process it and being able to comprehend it.
But religious lives can't build up a free thought for that. So as long as we allow churches, I mean, I come home when I was 12 years old, I think it was, and after singing hymns and sitting on the floor cross-legged at assemblies since the age of 4, I said to my mum, I was like, why was I christened? Have I been christened? She said, yes. I was like, I want to renounce it now. I hate it. I've been anti-church ever since. Done a lot of learning and things about the history since then. I'm now 39 and I still read lots. I'm always searching things like that. And I've just come to say religion is really, as soon as you become slightly woke or clever, as they call it, woke, you realise that religion isn't really that good. And the only good thing about it is the organisation of communities, which it sort of, and the togetherness it sort of breeds. But I don't know. I've been really confused with society ever since that we have a religion. We still have this sort of church allowance, and yet capitalism and liberalism takes us so far away from that, but yet that is what our framework is being built on. So the further we get away from it, these people are going to seem backward and right-wing, but we're allowing them to exist. It's our own fault.
I don't think anybody objected to the environmental protesters making their point, which is a valid one, let's face it.
They're not. I mean, I received lots of calls and texts and tweets from people who did, Jeffrey.
Yeah, well, I think I think it probably needed saying, but I think the issue was that they just kept saying it and saying it and saying it until everybody in the entire planet was sick of it. And
like the suffragettes did? Like the Stonewall protesters did? Or the suffragettes did?
Well, the suffragettes did what?
Said it.
Got run
said
over
it.
by a horse.
Said
and
it.
Many fights. I know. I spent many visits to the People's Museum in Manchester, where I read a lot about the suffragette movement. I have great respect for them. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that's really relevant to this argument.
Okay, go on then. What's the point you're making? Sorry, Jeffrey, go on.
Well, just that they made the point really well, and what the protests like that, what it really needs to do is sort of inspire the people involved to go on and take it forward in more practical fashion, which is, take it to Parliament, take it to media, and not stop. There's only so long you can keep clogging up the roads and wasting the attentions of the security forces, which are really needed on other matters, aren't they?
But who's to say? Who's to say when that point comes?
Well, I would say, like, when it becomes a ridiculous joke and the entire nation is just...
Who's to say that, though? Because Jeffrey, the honest truth is, listen, let's be absolutely honest about it. God knows what the nation thinks. I'm not even sure the nation knows what the nation thinks. I can sure as hell tell you that the polls don't know what the nation thinks, the media doesn't know what the nation thinks. I don't know what the nation thinks.
No, but I mean, we all watch social media and we listen to the media and we all listen to people that we know, yeah?
Okay, so what's
have our own little opinion.
Okay, so how does that equate to the LGBT protesters?
Why you keep coming back to LGBT? I'm talking about environmental protesters, so I don't know.
That's the story, because that's the story that I'm talking about, Jeffrey, and that's the story that's in the news today.
The environmental protesters.
It's all part of the same thing. So my question is, Jeffrey, right?
Well, I don't see how it is relevant to the environment, because what goes on consensually between two adults in a bedroom is nothing to do with rainforests falling or plastic in fish, mate.
No, of course. We're talking about Jeffrey. Hang on a minute. Jeffrey, hang on. We're talking about protest. The link is protest, obviously. The link between those two things is protest. The question.
I mean, I've seen many protests over many things, and I've been to many. Usually for peace and for solidarity. Okay,
so here's the question then. So you are clearly somebody who agrees with the right to protest, okay?
I tell you what, if there's nothing else I will stand for, I will always stand for freedom of speech, yours, mine, anyone's.
Good.
No matter what, whether I agree with it or not.
Okay, that's totally good. I agree. I agree with you. I'm with you on that one. Do we have to make a choice here then? Jeffrey, there's a choice here. There are a group of people who are protesting against another value that we as a nation hold very dear, and that is the freedom...
The LGBT thing about the people protesting out... I don't think... I think perhaps they should have a forum for this discussion, but I don't think they should be able to do it outside schools, because I think it's intimidating and confusing to the children and the parents and probably the staff as well. And even the people who live nearby, it must be weird for them. No, they need a forum, sure. All right, give them a forum, but it ain't outside a school. And it never is, unless it's a teacher's strike and it's legitimate.
Okay, Jeffrey, hang on. Dev is in Crewe. Hi, Dev.
Good evening. How are you today?
Yes, I'm very well, Dave. What are you thinking?
I'm just thinking these poor kids are going to school, trying to, do the best of themselves and their parents and get on with their lives, and all this ridiculousness is going on all around them, and what they must think, really.
And so do you believe, then, that they have a right to protest outside this school? Because they have a right to protest, don't they? They do have a right to protest. That's something that we hold dear, is it not?
I suppose it is, but I don't think... I mean, basically, these kids are going to a war zone to try and get to school, aren't they? And that, everybody's got a right to say and do whatever you need to do to try and get your point across, but I don't think kids should have to go through that to try and get to school, to be quite honest.
Here's a difficult question then, Dave, that I'm trying to wrap my head around myself here. As somebody, and I'll say this again, as somebody who is an ally. I see myself as an ally to the LGBT community, but equally I see myself as somebody who would die on the mountain of the right to protest. It is a very, very important part of living in a democracy, and I've said that on the show before, and I'll say it again. Do we have to choose here, Dave? Do we have to choose here between which of those two things we care about the most?
I really don't know about that. I just know these kids must. I don't know what they're trying. What they must think of it. I mean, I'm just a simple middle-aged white guy, and it wasn't taught when I was at school, and I don't think I'm any less of a person for that. So I don't see really what the problem is.
What the problem is in terms of what? In terms of them teaching LGBT inclusive education?
Or not teaching it. I think what we're looking at really is a religious problem, and we all know where that goes.
Okay.
So we really want to talk about that.
Okay, Dave, thank you for your call. Lovely to talk to you, Dave and crew. Jeffrey, thank you as well. Always nice to have a first-time caller, actually. That's a bit of a cliche, that, isn't it? I know it's a bit of one of those things that speech radio hates, is when somebody comes on and says, hello, first-time caller, long-time listener. But I'm okay with that. I'm all right with it. I'm going to open myself up as a shop that is happy to take on those kind of people. So, Jeffrey, you are very, very welcome. Ryan as well, thank you so much. 0344 499 1000 as well if you want to call. Talking your message to 87222. I'm not really sure if we answered that question. And I think the honest answer to the question that I'm keep rooting around to is that maybe we don't. Maybe we can believe in LGBT inclusive education and the right to protest against that in the same thing.